All right, so I messed up. I hit a button, but you see, it's three of those things. It actually hits that, so it's impossible to go forward. So that's a good thing. So that when it's tight, at least the whole, the whole thing is there. But I mean, technically, and you would have to really, overdo it. This whole top piece would come out, but it's bolted here, so it's really not going anywhere. So once this is tight, I'm just putting a clamp here just to kind of keep it in the right place. And once it's bolted here, just technically like this, yeah, that thing ain't coming out. It's really crazy how it all worked out as good as it did, I must say. And I'll re-grease this guy, but I didn't realize they just give you enough room to where the flat spot here touches the bearing. I don't even know if it does. No, technically this touches the other thing. The bearing is kind of freewheeling. It actually, there's more room to go up, but it won't go up because of the stop here. No wonder why it doesn't push it out. Oh, that's really cool. And just for shits and have that thing in. Hang on. Sorry, I don't have a tripod. Alright, so I slipped out the bearing. And just like I said, for shits and giggles. Yeah, it can't go through. Am I videoing it right? Yeah. You can't, this could not pull through. And then I forgot about this thing. Yeah, once that's bolted on, it's not going anywhere. So it's kind of like two independent shafts. And honestly, you would never be able to get this in or out. I'm not sure if I'd be able to get the whole thing in one shot like this. Number one, the bolts may be, the bolts for the power boost are probably pretty hard to get to. But it won't be difficult to get this. Like this thing, I just have enough room to get in. Once I get this in, then I could slide on this guy, and then I put the clamp on, and then I go this, and then I can tighten down a clamp. I just don't know what kind of clamp yet. I wanted to get like an exhaust clamp, but it really, it's bolted in. It's really not going to need much. So I may have to step this up a little bit. Like I may put some kind of piece of tin in it, just wrap it around, and then when I slide the other piece on, it'll be tighter to it, so it's more centered. But like I said, this shaft is going to be centered, and it's going to find its center no matter what. But just to make it more perfect, and then I put a clamp around that, it's really not going anywhere. And if you had a really bad car accident, technically it would accordion. Like if this part bent or this part bent, instead of the whole column coming up and smashing you, like on an old car, that's what they did. That's what the original one was basically like that. It had a hang on a second. Forgive the mess. This is what I took out of this column. Where are you? Yeah, right here. So this is how the original column looks, and you can see it has this sleeve here, and you're like, oh, okay, that's in permanently. It doesn't move, and you would be correct. But this is what came out. All I did was hit it with a hammer, and it slid out. Now it has these 4 notches here, so it doesn't rotate. You don't want it to rotate. In this situation, it's not going to. There's no way. I mean, even in this situation, it's, like you'd have a problem mounting it, but being that the other one, I have it all set up now that it's going to bolt right on, and this guy is going to go this way. And I have a little extra, I have a bracket. I'm going to weld the bracket flat to this. I don't have to have a bearing here because the other one is supported, where this one is not supported, so that's why they have a bearing down here. So, and the bearing that I have doesn't fit anymore. So I actually grinded off the weld, slid this through, because the other shaft, it comes out further. So I was trying to offset it, but the other part is another 1/4 inch longer. So that's why I did that. But basically this guy goes in here. Like if there was a way to adapt this to the other one, it would be tight, but then you'd really have to have the whole piece in one shot. But basically, even like this, it's basically 2 pieces that are bolted in. But it's not going anywhere. It's not turning. And it ensures that if you get into an accident, it's going to accordion. And whatever clamp I put, if it was a bad accident, it would definitely accordion. And there's actually another 2 inches that the inner shaft can go to. So the inner shaft and the outer shaft would move at the same time. There's no reason why from one way or the other it wouldn't accordion down accordingly. So far so good. I'm going to take all these. I already took off the switch off this. I'm going to take all the guts off this because the other one was kind of missing something, and then you have a different key. So I grinded out the bolts here on top, and I got other bolts for it. They're going to be Allen key bolts. So so far so good, but it ended up being a perfect size to basically eliminate this and put the other piece right onto this. But I left the tube in there so I can tell if I'm a perfect circle. So I welded it, and I'm mounting it so it'll, when I look straight down, it will be a perfect circle. Because ultimately you don't want the joint to hit anything, and obviously it's still in line where you see it. So you don't want to play too much with where it's centered. Obviously it'd be good if there was a bearing or something like that, but it's already supported with a bearing that's further in. Like on the unit, it's only about this much sticking out anyway. This one has the bearing all the way at the end, but that's because there's one bearing all the way down there and one bearing all the way up here. There's plenty of places to guide it. And like I said, the other part here, that shaft, the original shaft that I welded together to fit on the Toyota, it's a spline shaft that's on its own bearing as well. And that's exactly how they did it on the Toyota one anyway. I guess that is also for the accordion effect if it gets into an accident. So pretty neat, and it really worked out pretty well, I think, all things said. I'm going to let's see. I'm like the biggest slob in the world, so you gotta forgive my mess, but I'm not a dummy. I know how to do things. I'm just lazy cleaning up. Anyway, so I gotta trim this bracket here. They come with an original bracket, but I didn't see a real good way to put it, and being that these bolts were far apart and offset, I says I got to put it right in the center of where the hole was, and then it's got to be lined up, or at least close. So this is where I ended up with it, and there's plenty of room up here actually on the Festiva to go like that. I tried to go straight, on a, moreover, and it wasn't going to work. As you can see, that's real close, and that was on the car though. So like I said, I'm going to probably notch this, but because I'm going to grind off these welds, it's just a couple of tack welds I put. I'm going to push this all the way on, because like I said, the other one has this guy right now, as you can see, it's 1.5 inches, and this guy here coming out at the end is, I believe, 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches. So 1/2 inch is no bueno. This is the thing I had the guy make. He took the Toyota end and put it on here. This is the original Ford Festiva end, and this is the Toyota end, and this is the original Festiva end that used to be on here. So as you can tell, we go like this, because I'll show you bolt to bolt, because the bolt is where the dowel is. So if I do this, if I do the center line here, the bolt, see, that's 1.75 inches. Remember, I'm 1.5 inches, and I was thinking I want to do 1 3/4. This one here, see, I only wanted to I wanted it to be stretched out another 1/4, because the thing is 1/4. See, that's 1.5 inches. This guy here is 1.5 inches long. This is 1 3/4. This is a Toyota shaft that came with the whole setup, and this is the exact same. Everything about it is the same. It's just that it's slightly shorter, but it's the same size as the Festiva one. So unless I'm able to get the Festiva one to be exactly 2 inches sticking out, then yeah, if I'm able to get this guy to stick out 2 inches, then I would use the shorter one. But originally, because I knew this is the mounting, this is the mounting surface. See, this is the mounting part, and that's 2 inches from there. Gee, you know what? Maybe I just gotta slide that thing down and then weld it. Because I just realized I'm measuring it from there. Yeah, but this is the original bracket. So the original bracket is here. It would be better if I push this up, because I'm going to gain some length here. Because ultimately, if that's the back end of that, and yeah, because the original one, when I hook it on the back there, that means it's exactly the same, but you have the thickness of the bracket. So that's why I got that other longer thing that gives me a 1/4 inch. So I'm losing as soon as I start adding. So if I go with the inch, you know, the same size, the original Festiva one, the other one was a quarter-inch longer. So in the end, if I have it right here, or yeah, because with the thickness of the bracket, roughly there, it's going to be like 1.75 inches, or just a little bit longer. And I have room for that because the original thing that goes into the floor here, that's going to have more accordion kind of movement. But ultimately, if you're trying to do something like this, the guy who designed the car knows more about cars than me or you. I learned that in school, and it's very truthful. However, this is not school, and this is not normal. You can mess with, you know, the original design as long as you cover things. So being that the original one was sticking out 2 inches from this spot, I'm going to make it 1.75 inches, and then the piece that I have here is a 1/4 inch longer. You understand? So that's going to make up for it. You know, because if I made this exactly 2 inch and I had, you know, then I could have used the other one, but I just figured I would need to go up, mainly because when I originally was test fitting it, I knew it was tight. It was really this guy. I wanted to get the whole body in front of it, and it's not sitting. I believe it is. Yeah, it's just about sitting there in the car. So basically, you know, from what I could tell at the time, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to need a longer one because I wanted to make this go this way, so it didn't hit. You know what I mean? And I you know, it was way off. This is the right way to do it. This ended up being awesome because that's going to end up, you know it's not going to hit anything. You know, like I said, I may have to do it in 3 pieces where I bolt the original piece, of course, here first, and then bolt this guy in because I just have enough room, unless you start hacking up the crossbar under the you know, where it mounts, and then the car is not as safe, and it's a small little car. You don't want to get into an accident with it and have other issues. So this is pretty kick-ass, with the exception of the brake being over, you know, 1 inch. So everybody always uses that right side of the, right side of the thing there. But, you know, technically, you can grind this off, and I would have it TIG welded, if anything. You can put it over 1 inch, and then have it TIG welded, and the person driving wouldn't even know, and the brake pedal is still in the right place. So, I mean, this could be taken apart and done like that, but, you know, the gas pedal's so close to it, I think you'd kind of have a good, it'll be a good ratio there, go away. But a lot of people just, they pivot their toe, and that's why they wear out this guy, you know. But it may have to, you know, you got to lift up your foot and go over. Some people may not notice it even. But if you do notice it, listen, they can be taken apart, and then you can just grind off the weld, extend it over, put your angle brackets, you know, tack weld it 1 inch over, and then bring it to your guy and have him TIG weld it, because that it's important to be able to hit the brake and not have that thing fall off, because I believe all these are TIG welds. Maybe not. Gee, they really just put a little tack there. That's pretty crazy. But, you know, factory welds are always pretty good, unless they're not. All right, that's a long enough video. Okay, so I found some thicker metal, and I got these 2 drilled in, and that one gets in the way of the bracket. Believe it or not, this is the leftover stud that I drilled out on the ignition lock. So I'm just acting like it's like a pin. It just gives it a little extra something to hold it just in case. But this is much thicker. The other stuff was bending too easy on me when I was, you know, trying to modify it. And truthfully, it's like 1/8 of an inch. Maybe it's 3/16. But I was trying to get the total depth out to be, I think, so that the shaft comes out at 1.75 inches instead of the original 2 inch. Because again, the other the U joint is a 1/4 inch longer. I knew it was 2 inches out at the you know what I mean? Hang on a second. Easy to show you. So this was 2 inches. Of course, it's less than 2 inches now because I have this thing bolted to it. But it was 2 inches, and I knew that the other one was 2 inches on the outside of the bracket. So I'm like, oh, so it's going to end up being less. So it just so happens that one of those U joints for the steering column was a little bit longer, 1/4 inch longer. So that ends up, you know, working out perfectly. So you know, the other thing that I had made was just tacked in. Like I said, that's the little tab there, and I actually grinded the bracket a little bit. It'd be nice if I follow through with what I was doing. Put this guy in the vise. Okay, so we got this guy, and like I said, I grinded it right there a little bit, just to relieve it. So basically I'm going to tack that in place, you know, as centered as possible. I'm going to put a little mark on it so I know where to do it. And the other piece, I was talking about, you know, relieving that, but I kind of like the fact that it's kind of holding on there. It's just that the other piece is further out. So either I got to cut it flat or maybe just go a hair under. Like I'll slip a little piece of metal in there when I start scribing everything. And when I weld this, it'll be, you know, on center. Hang on. I'm a terrible cinematographer. So yeah, it basically goes like that. Like I said, there's a chance you get a bolt in there, like an Allen bolt, but it's probably going to interfere with a lot of stuff. So I just put it like a dowel pin. And this will be welded across there and all the way around. I think that'll be the best strength in the right place as well. And the total depth will be, that should be 1 3/4, and it'll come out good. And maybe I can just like shim that, just so that when the other piece goes in, if I hold it right there, the other piece is going to go right on, and it'll still be on center. So now I got to get to doing all this stuff. All right, so I got the unit clamped in. It's kind of shitty. There's nowhere to clamp it. I got to put the cover on maybe. All right, let's try this. Okay. Oh, what happened? Nope. So this is an eyeball because, you know, the joint can make up for a lot, but obviously you want it to look in the center of that circle, to look like if it's in the center of that circle. Here it is. Once you look through the camera, you kind of screw yourself up. Alright, after fucking with this a bunch of times, still having a hard time. And now the whole thing goes. This vise sucks. Alright, so I just got done welding it. So you can see the smoke. I went a little overkill. I'm not the greatest welder, but I have a decent welder. And I'll probably touch up on these spots right here that I missed because I'm blind. But I just got a little worried that, you know, like it's going to have more torque than these things can hold. Especially if I only had a few tack welds, so I kind of went crazy. So I don't think it's going anywhere. That's as good as it's going to get. As good as it's going to get. I am not an expert, but I'm doing the good welds with this particular welder. Not great, but good. It's solid. I know what a finished product is supposed to, you know, at least strength-wise look like. And this is fine. This ain't going nowhere. And that's about it. So in the end, if I grinded this, maybe I can get a bolt in there, but I was also thinking about building up a weld and then grinding it flat so it's higher, because that's where it ended up instead of where I originally had it. Hope I didn't mess up, because I don't remember it being there. I thought it was right on top of the bolt hole. But it's looking good. You know, I'm not quite sure now what I did there, but it probably doesn't matter And if anything, it made it easier to put another bolt in there. But now that I think about it, because it doesn't really matter as long as there's room for the unit to go in there. And where I had it originally, I was just being conservative. But being that I had it in the bracket over there, which is when this cools off, that's what I'm gonna do. Bolt it back on and see what the deal is. So take it from there. All right, so that's centered. Got these two bolts in. I had decided instead of just putting that stud, I have one of these Allen key ones, and it's sitting up a little bit on that bolt. It's just because it's just clipping the weld. I'll probably try to grind the weld a little bit, and then I'll be able to get it. But yeah, I had more room, so therefore I was able to. I actually had it tighter, I guess. And really, you know, that little bit is not really making anything, you know, happen. So I think this will be good. And it allows it something to kind of rest on, even though it's not, you know, it's the opposite way around. It's still, when it torques, it may have a better impact right there. I think it'll be for the better. I mean, maybe I can make a bracket even to help support it on this side as well, like a, you know, like something I could remove, like a, you know, like a spacer, and have a L bracket here, you know, use that bolt. But I don't know, I'll see. Maybe overkill.